Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Sunday service for the 21st of December, 2025. Today is such an auspicious day because not only is it the day that we are celebrating our candle lighting, the whole Christmas time and all, but it's also the time of the solstice, the time when the earth begins to shift from going to that darker and darker place during the day to the shift to begin to bring in more light. So to me, this is such a perfect day for celebrating that birth of the rebirth of the Christ within. And when we're talking about the Christmas story, this Christmas story is not just the telling of the birth of Jesus, but it's also an event that has both symbolic and very spiritual implications. Because this event offers an insight into our own human existence, the nature of divinity for us, and the potential within each one of us to transform our lives. Now, at its core, the Christmas story revolves around the birth of a child in a manger, and it's a child that was proclaimed to be the savior of the world. So the event itself, it occurs under some pretty insignificant conditions. A young woman and her husband traveled for days to reach this place. There was no room in the inn, so he was born in a stable. She wrapped him in cloths, placed him in a manger. And really, this is a pretty unassuming beginning that really actually has very important metaphysical symbolism. Joseph represents wisdom. Mary represents divine love. And Jesus represents the I am identity, divine understanding and power. So wisdom brought divine love to this place and gave birth to the I am presence. The in represents the potential of expanded consciousness. There's no room for anything to enter there. The claws represent loving energy, and the manger represents a protected place within us. So, divine love wrapped the I am presence in loving energy and placed that I am into a protected place within. The birth of Jesus is often interpreted as the coming of light into the darkness of the world. And it's a theme that is actually found in both Christian theology and many other spiritual traditions. In many religious and spiritual philosophies, light symbolizes knowledge, enlightenment, divine presence. Darkness, conversely, represents ignorance, suffering, and the unknown. The birth of Jesus in the manger signifies the arrival of divine wisdom and consciousness into this human physical world, which is often seen as shrouded in confusion and ignorance. The physical light of the star that guided the Magi to the birthplace of Jesus symbolizes this illumination, the light of truth and divine presence that guides humanity out of the shadows of suffering and separation from God. In a metaphysical sense, this light is not only a symbol of the divine, but it's also a representation of the potential for spiritual awakening within each and every individual. The Christmas story is really inviting humanity to recognize and embody this inner light, letting us know that every person has the capacity to transcend ignorance and suffering by aligning with their divine nature. This awakening is not merely a historical event, but it's a metaphysical process that each individual is invited to participate in throughout their lives. One of the most metaphysically significant aspects of the Christmas story is the doctrine of the divine birth. And this aspect has profound spiritual implications, particularly when considered through the lens of the belief that the divine is present and active within the created world, rather than being separate or distant from it. The virgin birth can be seen as a metaphor for the conception of the divine within the human soul. The Virgin Mary is often seen as representing the purity and oneness of the human heart that allows the divine to take form. She is not merely a passive vessel, but an active participant in the unfolding of the divine plan, embodying the potential of human beings to bring the divine into their own lives. From a metaphysical perspective, the virgin birth symbolizes the potential within each person to give birth to a higher consciousness, to allow the divine spark to emerge within them. And this process, like the conception of Jesus and Mary, is not something that can be manufactured by human effort alone, but it's actually a gift from the divine entering the world through a vessel that has prepared itself through openness, receptivity, and surrender. The virgin birth also suggests that the divine can enter the world in ways that transcend ordinary human understanding and experience. This concept emphasizes the idea that the divine operates on a level beyond ordinary material existence, and it's not bound by the constraints of physical laws. The miracle of the virgin birth invites us to consider the nature of divine reality itself, transcendent, mysterious, and yet intimately connected to our own existence. In the Nativity story, two distinct groups of people are drawn to the newborn Jesus, the shepherds and the Magi. And these figures are not just historical characters, but are actually archetypes that represent different aspects of the human journey towards spiritual enlightenment. The shepherds, ordinary and humble people, represent the archetype of the seeker who, through simplicity and humility, find themselves in the presence of the divine. The fact that they are the first to receive the announcement of Jesus's birth suggests that divine truth is accessible to all, regardless of social status or intellectual achievement. In metaphysical terms, the shepherds symbolize the potential for spiritual realization that exists in the most modest of circumstances. They also reflect the inner voice or guidance that leads the soul toward the divine. On the other hand, the Magi, the wise men from the East, represents a more intellectual or philosophical quest for understanding. They are learned individuals who seek out the truth through study and observation of the stars. Their journey to the birthplace of Jesus, guided by the star, symbolizes the search for higher knowledge and the wisdom that comes from discerning the signs of the divine in the world. In a metaphysical sense, the Magi embody the idea that spiritual wisdom and enlightenment are also available to those who earnestly seek and are open to discovering the divine in the world. And together, the shepherds and the Magi symbolize two contemplating paths of spiritual growth, the path of humility and the path of wisdom. The Christmas story invites individuals to embrace both aspects of the spiritual journey, openness, humility, and receptivity, as well as intellect, discernment, and the pursuit of higher knowledge. In this way, the story teaches that both the heart and the mind must be aligned in the search for truth and presence. Another central theme of the Christmas story is the message of love, which is often understood in a metaphysical context as the force that transcends all duality and division. The birth of Jesus is a manifestation of divine love entering the world, and this love is expressed in the form of self-sacrifice, compassion, and forgiveness. Jesus' message, as depicted in the Gospels, emphasized love as the highest spiritual principles: love for God, love for others, and love for oneself. So, metaphysically, love is seen as the binding force that unites all of creation. It's the energy that connects the divine and the human, the eternal and the earthly, and the individual and the collective. The Christmas story exemplifies this unifying love in the incarnation of Jesus, who, as both fully human and fully divine, bridges the gap between the infinite and the finite. The act of divine becoming human in the form of Jesus is a metaphor for the reconciliation of opposites: the divine and the material, the spiritual and the earthly, the eternal and the transient. And this unifying love also offers a pathway to redemption. In metaphysical terms, redemption is the process of restoring the soul to its original state of wholeness and unity with the divine. The birth of Jesus is seen as the initiation of a journey toward this redemption, which culminates in Jesus's life, death, and resurrection. His sacrifice is understood as a cosmic act that not only redeems humanity, but also restores the divine order to the world. So the Christmas story offers a model for the soul's journey toward enlightenment and unity with the divine. The Christmas story, when viewed metaphysically, reveals itself as an allegory for the human spiritual journey. The birth of Jesus symbolizes the coming of divine light into the world, offering the potential for enlightenment and awakening within each individual. The virgin birth represents the divine awakening within humanity, inviting people to allow the divine to be born within their own hearts. The figures of the shepherds and the magi serve as archetypes for the spiritual seeker, showing the importance of humility, wisdom, and the pursuit of truth. And finally, the overarching message of love and redemption offers a framework for understanding the transformative power of divine love to heal and unify all aspects of existence. In this way, the Christmas story serves not only as a historical or religious event, but as a timeless and universal narrative that speaks to the deepest aspects of the human experience. It invites individuals to reflect on their own spiritual path and the potential for divine awakening within them, whether through the light that shines in the darkness, the purity of the virgin birth, or the unifying force of love. The Christmas story offers a metaphysical blueprint for living life aligned with higher truths and deeper realities. We have the fullness of wisdom and love inside of ourselves. There has come a time when our own I am presence will be born again, wrapped in loving energy and placed within our own protected place within. However, now there is room available in our expansion consciousness. We know that we have the inner voice of guidance that leads us toward the divine within, and we only have to call upon them when we need them. Our spiritual perspective faculties often appear when we open ourselves to them. They can take us to that state of consciousness in which the soul and the body are in harmony with divine mind, and we can find heaven on earth. We can always find divine love and the wisdom with our I am presence in that protected place within our own hearts. So when the inner realms of consciousness that hold all wisdom come to the abiding consciousness of spiritual peace within us, we also will see the revelation of truth. It will be in us and as us from this day forward. When our own ruling will of the physical and the ego in the sense consciousness tries to trick us, the inner realms of consciousness that hold wisdom will come to our aid and bring us away from that energy within. That inner realm of consciousness that holds all wisdom will bring us the richness of spirit, the beauty of spirit, and the eternity of spirit. And all aspects of our being will kneel down and worship our own inner presence, our own I am self, the I am that we are. And so it is. So I invite you this beautiful, beautiful day to welcome the new Christ within you, an expanded version of who and what you are. I bless each and every one of you. I wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. May peace, joy, and love be yours always.